He was a man who had everything: power, wealth, and respect. Michael Anderson, a self-made millionaire CEO, stepped into his sleek black car one chilly evening, expecting nothing more than silence after a long day. But before the driver could even pull away, a small, sharp voice cut through the leather-lined calm. "Shut up." Michael froze. He turned his head slowly, and there, in the back seat, was a little black girl no older than 8, staring at him with eyes that carried both fear and fire. A millionaire used to boardrooms and investors, silenced by a child. What was she doing in his car? And why would she dare speak to him like that? What Michael didn't know was that this unexpected moment would unravel a truth that money could never buy and change the course of his life forever. Michael Anderson wasn't just any businessman, he was the businessman. The kind of man people whispered about in elevators, the one whose name appeared on magazine covers beside headlines like "The Billion-Dollar Visionary." Every morning, his world ran like clockwork: board meetings, sharp suits, private jets, and carefully planned schedules. To most, Michael's life looked flawless. But beneath the surface, he carried something no money could erase: loneliness. His wife had passed years ago, and his only son had grown distant, choosing to live his own life far away from Michael's shadow. That evening, as he stepped into his luxury car, he expected nothing more than routine silence, the kind of silence that had become his only companion. The tinted windows shut out the chaos of the city. The leather seats smelled of wealth and order. But this night was different. Because when Michael heard that tiny, defiant voice, "Shut up," and saw the little black girl sitting where no child was supposed to be, his carefully controlled world cracked. Her clothes were ragged, her shoes too small, and her eyes burned with a mixture of fear and boldness. She wasn't supposed to be there. Yet somehow, she belonged in that moment more than he did. And Michael, the man used to commanding boardrooms, couldn't even command this child. Michael's first reaction was disbelief, followed almost instantly by anger. Nobody spoke to him like that. He was Michael Anderson, a man who controlled boardrooms with just a glance. And now, an 8-year-old girl had silenced him in his own car. His voice thundered, sharp and commanding. "Who are you? What are you doing here? Answer me!" The little girl didn't flinch. She didn't cry. Instead, she turned her head slowly, her dark eyes fixed on him with a maturity far beyond her years. And then she repeated it, soft yet unwavering. "I told you to shut up." Michael's chest tightened. His driver, nervous, kept glancing through the rearview mirror. "Sir," he stammered, "I don't know how she got in here. When I opened the door for you, I swear, she wasn't there." That didn't make sense. His car was always checked, his routes always secure. There were guards, cameras, barriers. A child couldn't just slip through. And yet, here she was, sitting inches away from him, her tiny frame pressed against the door like a trapped bird. Michael forced himself to take a closer look. Her hair was tangled, her dress was worn thin and dirty, and her shoes, if they could still be called shoes, were 2 sizes too small. Her backpack, frayed at the edges, looked like it had been through storms. But it was her eyes that unsettled him. They weren't the eyes of a frightened child. They were fierce, steady, and filled with something Michael couldn't define: anger, pain, and an odd kind of authority. For the first time in years, he felt powerless. The car moved through the glowing city streets, neon signs flashing, horns blaring outside. Michael finally broke the silence, his voice lower this time, almost cautious. "Listen, I don't know how you got in here, but you can't just sneak into someone's car. Are you lost? Do you need food? Do you need—" She cut him off, her voice sharp as a blade. "I don't need anything from you." Michael blinked, stunned. "What?" Her little hands tightened around her backpack, her knuckles pale. Men like you, she whispered. You're the reason people like me are on the street. The words struck him like a physical blow. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. He had faced brutal negotiations, lawsuits, betrayals from partners, but never had an accusation pierced him like this. A reason people like her are on the street? What did that even mean? Michael shifted uncomfortably, trying to compose himself. He wanted to dismiss her words, to chalk them up to childish nonsense, but the conviction in her tone made it impossible. He turned his head to the window. The car was now driving past the darker side of the city, rows of shelters, soup kitchens, and alleys where the homeless huddled against the cold. The little girl and he noticed staring blankly at the streets. She was watching them with recognition. Her gaze followed each shelter, each alleyway, like she knew them, like these corners had shaped her life. Michael felt a lump in his throat. For a man who thrived on control, this was new territory. He had no script, no strategy. Finally, he asked softly, almost reluctantly, "What's your name?" She hesitated, then muttered, "Ava." "Ava." Michael repeated the name slowly, like it was fragile in his mouth. "Why did you get into my car?" Her answer was nothing he could have prepared for. "Because you needed to hear me." Michael froze. He wanted to laugh, to dismiss it as childish nonsense, but her tone was steady, certain,
You think you're
like she
powerful.
knew something he Ava said, her eyes narrowing. "You think money fixes everything, but it doesn't. Tonight, you're going to listen. For once in your life, you will listen." Michael felt a shiver crawl up his spine. This wasn't just a homeless child trespassing into his car. This was something else, something deeper, something that, for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure he was ready for. Michael shifted in his leather seat, feeling like the air around him had grown heavy. He was used to commanding every situation, but this child, this little stranger, was turning his entire world upside down. "Ava," he said carefully, "what do you mean I needed to hear you?" Her lips pressed into a thin line, her small fingers drumming against her battered backpack. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stared out the window as the car passed another dark alley where homeless families huddled together for warmth. A mother pulled her child closer, covering him with a torn blanket. Michael looked away quickly, guilt pressing against his chest for reasons he couldn't name. Finally, Ava spoke. Her voice was low, deliberate, each word sharp as glass. "You sit up there in your tall buildings making money, giving orders. Do you know what happens down here, where kids like me live? Do you even care?" Michael's jaw tightened. He wanted to defend himself, to say that his business created jobs, that he donated to charities, that he did care. But for some reason, the words stuck in his throat. She turned to him then, her eyes fierce, unblinking. "My mom worked for one of your companies. She cleaned your offices at night when everyone else had gone home. She used to come back with her hands cracked and bleeding from all the chemicals. And then one day, they told her she was no longer needed." Michael's chest constricted. He knew his corporations employed thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Cleaning crews were handled by contractors. He never saw their faces, never knew their names. But this girl was saying her mother was one of them. "What happened to her?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Ava's eyes glistened, but no tears fell. She was too strong for tears. She tried to find other jobs, she begged, but no one would take her. Not without papers, not without strength. She got sick, and then she was gone. Silence filled the car like a suffocating fog. Michael's throat burned, his fingers twitching against his knees. "And me?" Ava continued, her voice trembling now, but still steady enough to cut through him. "I had nowhere to go, no family to take me in. Do you know what it's like to sleep on the street, Mr. Anderson? To wonder if you'll wake up cold, or not wake up at all?" Michael's mind reeled. He could see her now, not just as a ragged child in his car, but as a human being shaped by loss, by abandonment, by the cold cruelty of a system he had helped build. He tried to speak, but she raised a hand, small, fragile, yet commanding enough to silence him again. Don't say you're sorry. I don't need your sorry. I don't need your money. I just need you to hear me. Michael's lips parted, then closed again. Nobody had ever spoken to him like this. Not shareholders, not rivals, not even his estranged son. Ava's words pierced deeper than anything else ever had. The car slowed at a red light. Outside, Michael noticed a young boy, barely Ava's age, digging through a trash can for food. A security guard shooed him away like an animal. Ava didn't look away. She just stared, her little hands gripping her backpack tighter. Every night, she said softly, I tell myself I'll survive one more day. But some kids don't. Some kids don't wake up. And people like you, people with power, you never even know their names. Michael swallowed hard, his throat dry. Something inside him cracked, an uncomfortable awareness that maybe she was right. Maybe he had been blind, living in towers of glass while ignoring the streets below. His voice broke the silence, quiet, almost pleading. Why me? Why did you choose me, Ava? Her answer sent shivers through him. Because, she whispered, you still have a heart. I can see it. You just buried it under all that money. And I'm here to dig it out. For the first time in decades, Michael Anderson, the man known for his iron composure, felt tears sting his eyes. He looked at her, really looked at her, and realized this wasn't just some random encounter. It was something bigger. A reckoning. The city lights blurred past as the car rolled silently through the streets. Michael sat frozen, Ava's words echoing inside him like church bells on a stormy night. For a man who thought he had everything, power, wealth, control, he suddenly realized he had nothing that truly mattered. She shifted on the seat, but Ava wasn't pulling her knees to her chest. In that moment, she didn't look like a rebellious child challenging a billionaire. She looked like a little girl who had carried pain far too heavy for her small shoulders. Do you know what it feels like? Ava said slowly, her voice trembling yet sharp as a knife. To wake up in the middle of the night because rats are crawling near your face? To shiver so hard you think your bones will break? To listen to other kids cry themselves to sleep because their stomachs are empty, and you can't do anything to help them? Michael flinched. The images stabbed him. He thought of his mansion. 30 rooms, marble floors, a bed so large he barely used a corner of it. And here was this child, speaking of survival as if it were a daily lottery. Ava leaned closer now, her eyes locking on his, fierce, unrelenting. My mom used to tell me the world had good people in it, that one day someone would care enough to help. But when she got sick, no one came. Not one doctor, not one neighbor. She begged in the hospital waiting room, and they turned her away because she couldn't pay. Do you know what it's like to watch the only person who ever loved you die in front of you? While people walk past like you don't exist? Her voice cracked, and for the first time, tears spilled down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them. She let them fall, raw and unhidden. Michael's own heart clenched so tightly, it felt like it might stop beating. His eyes welled up, his throat burning. He had buried his humanity under decades of deals, contracts, and ambition. But Ava was tearing through those walls with every word. The driver glanced nervously in the rearview mirror, but said nothing. The car seemed to shrink, becoming less of a luxury space and more of a confessional. Ava's small fists clenched on her backpack straps. People like you, Mr. Anderson. You could change everything. You could feed kids like me, give us schools, give us hope. But you don't. You build taller buildings, buy bigger cars, and call it success, while kids like me learn how to steal food just to stay alive another day. Michael's chest heaved. Ava, I didn't know, he stammered, his voice breaking like glass. Her glare hardened. You didn't want to know. The words sliced through him, merciless, because deep down he knew she was right. He had seen glimpses of this world before, in the tired faces of janitors, in the hungry eyes of children on sidewalks, but he had turned away every time, telling himself it wasn't his problem. But now it was sitting in his car, staring at him, refusing to let him escape. Suddenly, Ava unzipped her backpack. Michael tensed, unsure of what she would pull out. But it wasn't a weapon. It was something far more devastating. A crumpled photograph. She held it out with trembling fingers. In it, a tired but beautiful woman smiled weakly at the camera, her arm wrapped protectively around a younger Ava. The woman's eyes carried the same fire Ava had now, a fire of love, sacrifice, and survival. "My mom," Ava whispered, her voice breaking into sobs. She believed in people. She believed that someone out there still had a heart. She looked at Michael, her face streaked with tears. "I want to believe she wasn't wrong. Tell me she wasn't wrong." The dam inside Michael broke. His hands shook as he took the photo, staring at the woman who had scrubbed his offices, whose existence had never reached his world until this moment. His vision blurred with tears. For the first time in years, decades, Michael Anderson wept openly. He reached for Ava's hand. It was small, calloused, rough with survival. He held it as tightly as he could, his voice cracking. "She wasn't wrong. She wasn't wrong, Ava. I swear to you, she wasn't wrong." Ava's lip trembled, her small body shaking as the sobs she had held in for so long finally tore free. And Michael, the billionaire CEO, the untouchable giant of glass towers, pulled her into his arms and held her as though she were his own child. The car kept moving, but inside it, the world had stopped. It wasn't just about a little girl anymore. It wasn't about guilt or pity or charity. This was transformation. A man discovering that beneath the weight of wealth and power, his heart still beat, and a child proving that even the smallest voice could shatter the walls of the strongest man. The car slowed as it approached the glowing skyline of the city, glass towers glittering like diamonds against the night sky. For Michael Anderson, those towers had always been monuments to his success, but tonight, they felt like tombstones, cold, lifeless, meaningless. He still held Ava close, her tiny shoulders shaking against his chest. When her sobs finally quieted, she leaned back, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand. Her eyes, red and swollen, still burned with a stubborn fire.